guys, welcome back to the Crawl Room. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty room for all things Formula 1. So it is the morning after the night before at the time of recording, and I still cannot believe that race. We are being thoroughly spoilt this season. Some amazing races, some on-track battles. It's been incredible. It has been absolutely phenomenal this season, and I think we all just need to take a moment just to appreciate how much we've wanted this and how much we're getting it now. We've wanted a championship battle for a long time, especially one that lasts till the end of the season. Wow, we are really in for a treat this season. These last 5 races, I am not going to be able to know what to do with myself because I think they're all going to be exciting from here on in now. Wow. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out of a maximum of 10 points based on their weekend's performance. And if you do really, really badly, I go all the way down to 0. Bonus points are on offer for those that do something extra special during the race. And minus points are on offer as well if someone does extra special for all the wrong reasons. So we're going to kick things off with the race winner, Max Verstappen. I seriously didn't think he was going to win that. I cannot believe he won that. That was incredible. Just unbelievable. They did a different strategy, Red Bull, pitting Max early to enable him to get back ahead of Hamilton after he got off the line a little bit poorly. In fact, I just think Hamilton had a mega start compared to Max's average start. And Hamilton leaped ahead, but Red Bull tried the undercut, which initially worked in the first phase of the pit stops. In the second phase of the pit stops, of course, it worked again, but Hamilton stayed out a lot longer than Max. I think the tyres were 8 laps fresher in the end on Hamilton's car compared to Max's. Max hit the traffic at a really bad time. He was through the first sector. There were the likes of Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Alonso, all battling for points. Tsunoda as well was in there, wasn't he? They were all battling for the final points paying position. None of them really wanted to yield that much. And unfortunately, Max lost, I think it was about 4.5 seconds just in a couple of laps because the traffic refused to yield. So that enabled Hamilton to already close his 8.5 second deficit up to 4.5. And then from there, Hamilton just kept chipping away. And then if it wasn't drama enough, Hamilton was just getting inside the DRS zone within that 1 second window. And then Max had Mick Schumacher who wouldn't move out of the way. And oh my God. But thankfully for Max managed to get DRS off Mick, so that when Hamilton got DRS, it nil avoided itself. It had everything, didn't it? It had everything. That was unbelievable. So Max Verstappen's getting a full 10 points. I was going to give him 9 after the average start, but for managing to get through that traffic so calmly and for him to withhold and withstand that pressure from Lewis for so long, and more importantly, keeping him out of the DRS zone, out of the exit of turn 11, keeping him outside that 1 second window was absolutely crucial. So, yeah, I think he deserves a 10 for that, Max. A poor start, put him on the back foot a little bit. Red Bull had to try something different, but my God, did he make up for it. Unbelievable. We're seeing a potential future champion, maybe not, even if it's not this year for Max, it will be soon against a 7-time world champion, and they're both extracting the most out of the cars. It's incredible. So yeah, 10 points to Max. Just amazing. And then of course we come to Lewis Hamilton, his title rival. Wow. I just cannot believe that battle. I just cannot believe it. We've seen everything this year. We've had on-track collisions. I thought it was all going to go wrong in turn 1. I seriously thought that if Lewis had an average start and couldn't get Max, I just honestly thought Lewis Hamilton were going to be T-boning Max to keep the point deficit at 6, because I thought it was going to be an easy win for Red Bull. Once they got pole by 2.5 tenths. It was such a weird weekend though, wasn't it? FP1, Red Bull not looking quick at all. Then FP2, it looked like Red Bull were good on a long race run, but not over 1 lap. And then FP3 came, and then all of a sudden it were dominance Red Bull, and you're like, wow, where have they found this time from? So when it got to qualifying, that was nail-biting as itself, wasn't it? Perez was nearly in the mix as well. And we got to, I just can't believe it. We got into turn one and Hamilton was first. I was like, right, they've made the first corner, they've made the first lap, right. I'm happy now because this is going to be a battle to the end, and it was unbelievable. I'm not suggesting in any way that it was going to be dirty tactics from Hamilton, but everyone had that thought. I know they did, like I did, that I thought, oh, advantage Red Bull at a Mercedes circuit. I'm pretty sure Hamilton's aiming for Max here to keep it a 6-point deficit and not to extend the lead. But in the end, provided a great exciting battle and a great exciting duel throughout the 56 laps, and Hamilton is fully deserving of 10 points as well. I just cannot, I'm out of breath. Now it's the day after. It's just unbelievable what we're witnessing. We really are witnessing something special, and I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it. We've got 5 races left to go now. We know 2 with Mexico and of course Brazil are normally a Honda favourite. Then we've got Jeddah, an unknown. We've also got the Abu Dhabi as well. Let's not forget Abu Dhabi with a new configuration to that circuit. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. And of course Qatar as well. So we've got 2 advantage Red Bulls, 2 unknowns, and 1 a previous Red Bull favourite, but will the reconfiguration of the circuit make it more favourable for Mercedes? It's all to play for in these final 5 rounds. I cannot believe it. But yeah, 10 points to Lewis. And then we come to Sergio Perez, and I think he was unlucky, Alf, this weekend. He was really, really unlucky. He was so close to pole in qualifying, drove phenomenally, but in that final laps that, of course, Hamilton and Max put in, it just, you know, it's just something that Perez isn't able to deliver. So, you know, in the end it was Max, then Hamilton, then of course Sergio. But he drove a fantastic race, Perez, and I think how far back he was in the end, 40 seconds, doesn't show his true race pace. It was of course inside the pit window when both Red Bulls elected to pit earlier than the Mercedes, but unfortunately for Perez it was a compounding issues. He had a used set of medium tyres that he elected to put on the car. They'd only done 1 lap in qualifying, so they were fairly fresh, but still, he went on the mediums, not the hard tyres, and he had a slow stop, which put him outside the window then to even bother to challenge Hamilton. Then I think the mediums faded away, which gave him a big, big deficit to Hamilton and Max. Then when he came in for the hard tyres, it was already game over. 3rd was the best he was getting. I think he just reserved his tyres and did incredibly well. Not to mention as well, he didn't have drinks from about lap 16, 17 when he reported that over the radio, that his drinks weren't working at a hot circuit, a lot of humidity and a lot of heat. So I think it was a compounding issues with Perez this weekend, and I think he was unlucky not to be closer. I'm not in any way, shape or form saying I think he would have been with Hamilton or Max, but I think had it not been for the slow stop and he had to extend his medium tyre stint in the second phase where everyone else was on hards, I think it could have been within inside the pit window of Hamilton and giving Hamilton a bit more pressure and putting a bit more pressure on the Mercedes strategy team. But unfortunately, that's how it works out. But it's still going to be 9 points to Sergio. These last 2 races have been incredible by him. And yeah, I really hope that he's there now to play a decent second driver role to Max, like Bottas has been doing with Hamilton. And not only that, for that, but the Constructors' Championship is closing up now as well. So it's going to be exciting, isn't it? I think we're going to have 4 cars at the front for the next 5 races. We're going to have Bottas, Hamilton, Verstappen and Perez all going hammer and tongs, all thinking about a Drivers' Championship for the respective teammates with Perez and Bottas. And then, of course, the whole bigger picture is we're thinking of a Constructors. Absolutely incredible. And then we come to Sha-la-la. And here he is, Sha-la-la, in his way into P4. What an absolutely fantastic drive by Cha. He drove unbelievably. He's that one driver, isn't he, that's able to break away from the pack he should be racing with, but just can't get on the back of the cars ahead. Unfortunately for him, he was closing in on Perez, but wasn't to be at the end. But P4, a solid drive. It's 10 points. Well done, Chal. You drove absolutely fantastic throughout that race. A little bit lonely, so you didn't get much coverage, but didn't put a wheel wrong, didn't put a foot wrong. And yeah, was able to break away from the likes of Ricciardo, his teammates Sainz and Norris, of course, helping Ferrari in their battle for P3 in the Constructors as well. So it's all spicy at the back as well and in the mid-pack. Oh, it's unbelievable. So yeah, 10 points to Charles. He drove incredibly that weekend. Well done, Charles. And then it's time for Daniel Ricciardo in P5. Drove a really good race, out-qualified his teammate and out-raced his teammate this weekend, which is what he needed to do. We're seeing the ups and downs of Daniel Ricciardo, And McLaren are saying, yeah, we're really happy Ricciardo's up there now. And then you think, yeah, but Lando's down there, so you're losing points to Ferrari still. So it's bizarre, isn't it? It is bizarre. But yeah, Daniel Ricciardo loves the circuit of Austin. He's a homegrown Texan, isn't he? In his mind, anyway. But yeah, he drove incredibly well. And fifth place, absolutely amazing. He was technically best of the rest in that point because Charles had just buggered off into the distance, so P5 was the best he could get, and he did it. So yeah, well done to him, absolutely fantastic. He's had a tough season, he's had many highs and many lows as well. This one was one of the high points, so well done Daniel Ricciardo. Going to be 9 points to him, absolutely brilliant effort. I'd just like to see him finish ahead of Charles Leclerc to be definitely best of the rest. But yeah, Charles is doing something phenomenal in that Ferrari, but still a solid weekend from Ricciardo, and I don't want to take anything away from that. So yeah, 9 points. And then we come to Valtteri Bottas, disqualified on the cruel room anyway due to his previous antics, and this weekend wasn't his weekend, was it? Another grid place drop, 5 places this time as opposed to 10 all starting at the back, so damage limitation in that sense, but unfortunately he only qualified 4th, such was the pace of his teammate and the Red Bulls, which compounded him down to 9th. At the start of the race he couldn't get past Tsunoda, Gasly ended up getting back past him again as well, so dropping him down to 10th briefly. And then in the race, it was mainly pit strategy that got him back up there, wasn't it? As opposed to overall race pace. He kept out a long time, a bit like Hamilton did. He stayed out for a while and was able to pick places off just by his pure pace and doing the overcut. And much fresher tyres at the end allowed him to pass Sainz. So yeah, Bottas was able to overtake Sainz in the closing stages and did a really good job at doing that, but still not a cracking effort, was it? It was an okay race, but nothing special. So yeah, disqualified on the cruel room anyway, but it was damage limitation. And then we come to Carlos Sainz. A good race by Carlos, definitely. He's doing really well in that Ferrari, isn't he? He's pretty much tied on points with Charles now, and this is not something we expected to see. I think he's gone under the radar, Sainz, for many years. He's gone to Ferrari. It's not at its best, but he's been doing the best job possible. He's picked up more podiums than Charles. Of course, Charles has had the glamour pole positions, but have not really turned into anything. And he's done well. He has done well. So it's going to be a solid 8 points this weekend for Carlos Sainz. I think he drove where the pace of the Ferrari was. Just Charles was able to extract something more out of it this weekend than most could. And he drove really, really well, did Sainz. Unfortunate for him not to be able to get past Daniel Ricciardo. He had that little bit of a moment, didn't he, where apparently he had to yield to Norris for overtaking off track, but he yielded to Ricciardo, so he said, no, that's enough, it's a McLaren. And I think the FIA were happy with that. He yielded to a McLaren, and that was that. So yeah, that was a fantastic battle at the start, wasn't it? Lando Norris coming barreling down the inside at turn 12. You're like, oh my God, there's going to be 4 of them out here. And everyone kept it clean. So yeah, really, really good racing in that mid-pack. Really good racing between the Ferraris and the McLarens. And yeah, great drive by Carlos Sainz. 8 points. And then we come to Lando Norris. And what could be said for Lando? A tough weekend this weekend. Out-qualified by his teammate, out-raced by his teammate, and ultimately finished a few places behind where he would have liked. He would have certainly liked to have been in that top 5 area. But here he is down in 8th place, sadly, for Norris. Couldn't get it together, could he? Just could not get it together, it seems. So, unfortunately in that sense, going to be a middle-of-the-road 5 points for Lando. We've seen a lot better from him this season. This one was more of a miss weekend than a hit, but still bringing home a couple of points, which is what is crucial for that Constructors' Championship. But finishing behind both Ferraris, bit of a tough one. So yeah, 5 points, middle of the road to Lando. And then it's Yuki Tsunoda. Here we go. Well done, Yuki. That was a cracking drive. He worked for those points finishes there. He absolutely worked for those 2 points. Well done, Yuki. That was a cracking drive. Got himself into Q3, but on the soft tyre, and then ended up starting the race in P10. So it wasn't brilliant, was it? It wasn't a good start by Yuki. You're thinking, oh, he's on the softs. But everyone tried the pit earlier strategy. So in theory then the softs and the mediums that everyone started on pretty much nil and voided themselves, because everyone was pitting earlier anyway, and it was probably time for Tsunoda to pit when everyone else were pitting for mediums. So it kind of helped him in that sense that he wasn't dragging old tyres on for quite a while. But yeah, he drove incredibly well. He held off the likes of course, Bottas, who drove he drove amazingly, and he held off from the likes of Alonso, and Raikkonen and Giovinazzi and Vettel. So he drove incredibly well this weekend, and it's going to be 9 points to Yuki Tsunoda. That was cracking, and especially when Gasly had the downfall with his suspension failure, there had been some worries and some grumbles in AlphaTauri as to whether A, Yuki could do this and deliver some points for him, and B, would his car actually last, and both happened. So well done Yuki. That was probably one of his best drives of the season, especially with the pressure he's been under. Well and thoroughly deserved. So 9 points, yes, go to Yuki Tsunoda. Next up, we have Sebastian Vettel, my personal driver of the day. I think he went under the radar to some and to many potentially, but here he is, P10, picking up a point. Doesn't sound stellar, but he was starting at the back, and he worked his way through into the final points-paying position. A little bit of courtesy, of course, from Raikkonen. We'll get to him in a minute. But yeah, Sebastian Vettel, a cracking drive. Well done to pick up a point ahead of your teammate. You had the penalties. I don't think that could have gone any better for him. The Aston Martin has not had the pace all year, really. It's looked into a podium. Well, looked into 2 podiums, but FIA said something about that, the bastards. But yeah, he drove incredibly well. He drove incredibly well to pick up a point, and it's going to be 11. He's picking up a bonus point. 11 points. That was a cracking drive. That Aston Martin looks like an absolute dog, and he dragged it from the back to a points-paying position. Well done to him. And then it's Antonio Giovinazzi, the Italian stallion once again. And my, wasn't he a busy boy this weekend. He did okay in qualifying, ended up starting P12 as a result of the penalties for Russell, Alonso and Vettel. So drove well in that sense. In qualifying, he knew the best he could get with 12th, and he got it, so fair play for that. And then in the race, got himself into the cusp of the points. P10, P11, P12. He was getting absolutely hammer and tongued by Alonso, overtaking him off the track, on the track. Then Giovinazzi took him off the track. And then we went this way. Then we went that way. Then we had Raikkonen for good measure. Then we had Vettel, and it was all just kicking off, wasn't it? So Giovinazzi, 11th, missing out on the points by 1 position, which is incredibly unfortunate once again by Alfa Romeo. But he drove a fantastic team game this weekend, a lot better than he did in Turkey, as I later found out. Yeah, a great job by Giovinazzi, who is driving, of course, for that seat, which we think has lost it to Zhou. But yes, nonetheless, it's going to be 8 points to Antonio Giovinazzi. I thought that was a good race. That was another good, solid race by the Alfa Romeo. So well done to him for that. Shame it wasn't a point again. But yeah, we'll get to his teammate in a minute. But yeah, I think Giovinazzi did all he could. And then we come to Lance Stroll, and it's a little bit of a difficult one this time. I've awarded him 6. And it was a bit sympathetic. He was out in Q1, which wasn't fantastic. Of course, Vettel getting through and he was starting from the back was a little bit counterintuitive by Aston Martin there, but they weren't to know that Stroll couldn't get the lap together. He had lap time deleted, I think, as well in qualifying, which put him on the back foot. But yeah, in the race, he got spun round by Latifi at the start at turn 1. Probably got a bit of front wing damage, as did Latifi, but they elected to carry on with the damage. And here he is, 12th. It's okay, it's nothing special, it's nothing bad, but of course I think he made up from a lot of lost time at that turn 1 incident and was probably racing with a little bit of damage as well. So yeah, a sympathetic 6 to Lance Stroll. Not much to say about his race, a little bit quiet, a little bit lonely, and just wasn't able to get into the final points paid positions. And then it's Kimi Raikkonen.
I could have done 23 races easily, only ever finished half of them.
Oh, Kimi, you absolute bottle job. Oh, Kimi. Oh, what do I keep saying about Alfa Romeo throwing it away when they could be on the cusp of points or in the points, as it be it a team or a driver issue? Oh, he was running in 10th for so long. He had a poor qualifying, made up for it at the start of the race, gained a lot of places. And was on the cusp of points for a lot of laps, was inside the points for a lot of laps after Gasly retired with suspension failure. And he was running around in 10th. He had a couple of seconds to Vettel, who was closing in on him on fresher tyres. Whether he'd have got the 10th, I don't know. But when he went off spinning, oh, God. Oh, Palmer of the Week. Raikkonen, I wanted to praise you. If you'd have been here on merit, I'd have maybe given you a 6 or a 7. But you're in the points, then you spun. It pains me. It really does pain me, but it has to be Palmer of the Week to Kimi Raikkonen for that. What a shame. And then we come to George Russell, a lonely weekend this weekend by Georgia's standards. Did get a little bit stuck in with the likes of Ocon and Alonso, I believe it was, the two Alpines. But yeah, starting at the back as a result of engine penalties and couldn't really work his way through. He got as high as 13th briefly after all the shenanigans at the start with, of course, Latifi spinning around Stroll. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate for those two. But yeah, you know, he did a good race. He did a solid job, and it's the middle of the road 5. I don't really know what else the Williams could have done when it was starting at the back. We know it struggles in combat. It struggled in combat again today. And yeah, unfortunate by George's. Realistically, if he qualifies well, he can stay there sometimes. But if he starts at the back, he worked his way forward and then just slipped down a little bit at the end. So yeah, 5 points to George. Just a tough weekend all round. And then we come to Nicolas Latifah, disqualified on the cruel room anyway, but I wouldn't really be awarding him points, to be honest, even if he did finish, the two Canadians getting together at turn 1. And he said he was sandwiched, and I kind of get it. Turn 1, there's cars going everywhere. Stroll was cutting across him, but at the end of the day, Stroll was on the racing line, and Latifi just barrel rolled it up the inside, didn't he? So yeah, I blame more on Latifi there. I'm surprised there wasn't a penalty, unless there was and I missed it. But yeah, one of those things. I do blame Latifi, but I don't hold it against him. But yeah, disqualified anyway. Not a good showing by Latifi either. So yeah, there you go. Latifi, another average or less than average race. And then we come to Mick Schumacher. Oh, a tough one. A tough one, this one. The Haas's just did not have any pace at all, did they? Let's be honest, this weekend was incredibly tough for Haas, as it has been for many of the weekends. But yes, unfortunately they were thoroughly down the order, P19, P20. He beat his teammate for one, which was good, and then he was keeping himself to himself. Wasn't doing anything wrong, was he? And then that last lap where he didn't yield to Max. Oh my God, that was exciting, wasn't it? So yeah, it's going to be 6 points to Mick. Wasn't the best weekend by Haas's standards overall. A long lap. It requires a lot of downforce, which that Haas really hasn't got. But nonetheless, he was a minute ahead of his teammate. So that's all we can compare him to. Not his best drive, but not his worst. 6 points to Mick. And then we come to Nikita Maz's spin, who, as you know, we don't award points on this cruel room. Dan just has his fun on the scoreboard, so look forward to that at the end. But yeah, bit of a dick. And then we come to the 3 retirements of Alonso, Ocon and Pierre Gasly, all retiring as a result of nothing to do with them. It was a car fault. We believe the Alpines was a double rear wing failure on both cars. Ocon was the first to retire of the Alpines, saying, look, we need to bring in something wrong on the rear. We'll talk about it when we get in. And then Alonso came in the pits on his own accord and said, we need to retire the car, rear wing failure, rear wing broken. So, yeah, those two Alpines unlucky this weekend. Maybe Alonso could have scraped a point, but Ocon had trouble at the start, didn't he? They changed his wing. He touched the back of an Alfa Romeo, didn't he, I believe, and damaged his front wing, so needed a wing, and then that put him on the back foot straight away. Latifi pitted for a wing, and then they came out the pits together, and Ocon was just like, no, I need some clean laps, and they were side by side throwing each other off the track, but managed to avoid further contact. But yeah, nonetheless, it's a middle of the road 5 to Fernando Alonso, the last of the retirements in the race, the first on this list. It's 5 to Esteban Ocon. So that was a double Alpine retirement, which was a shame to see. And then Pierre Gasly looked like he could get some points again this weekend. And sadly, for him, suspension failure, retired early on. So again, a middle of the road 5 to him. That's all I can award the retired drivers. Bit of a shame. We could have seen Alonso and Gasly in the points out of those 3. Ocon on the back foot. But yeah, big shame. But there you go, 5 points to each of them. And it's a shame when it's a mechanical error or a fault with the car as opposed to a driver error, because it's out of everyone's hands at that point, isn't it? So yeah, unfortunate. 5 points to all of those retirements. So there we have it, guys. That was the runners and riders of the United States Grand Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high? Any too low? As always, the scoreboard is on the screen now, and look how close that is getting at the top. Wow, it's like I script it. It really is like I script it. But honestly, thanks so much to Dan Mushy Gaming. I just shout the scores out. He adds them all up and puts them all together. I see the scoreboard after I do the points, of course, so there's no manipulation there. It's just how close it is this year and how well some drivers are doing. But yeah, still all to play for in the championship. And of course, a massive thanks to Dave, F1 Games PlayStation, for the Jolie and Palmer skits that you all know and love. I think he's running out of ideas from now, but he'll never give up and he'll never surrender. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and as always, Much love.